Chapter 19 of our textbook is all about working in small groups. The first thing it talks about is the leader of a small group, and there's three types of leaders when it comes to small groups. There's an implied leader, and this is a guy who maybe has a higher rank. I know the core kids, they look to people with higher ranks. Maybe he just has better expertise, a better grade in the class, whatever. It's never really directly said, hey, this is going to be the guy who's leading our group, but everyone kind of looks to him for inspiration and help and assistance when doing the job. A designated leader is kind of like, hey, we all decided Joe Smith is going to be our leader. He's going to be the one to run things, et cetera, et cetera. And then an emergent leader is that guy who kind of takes a role and says, hey, I'll lead this group, I'll do it, and kind of takes on that role himself without being asked to. This can be good or bad. If it's a good leader, he's going to come in and he's going to say, hey, I'll be the leader, I'll take this job. He's going to make sure everyone's getting his stuff done. But it can also be kind of bad when, maybe he's not the best fit for a leader and he says, I want to be the leader of this group, but doesn't have the best ideas, doesn't have the best leader management and leadership skills. It's kind of something you just have to deal with when you're working in a small group. And then there's three different styles of leaders. There's authoritarian, and this guy, he's cut and dry. It's, all right, you two are working on this, you two are working on this, I want it done by today, I need it done in this way, etc. And he's taking command. There's a democratic leader who he says, all right, I'm going to make the decisions, but let me hear your guys' input. What do you think about this? Hey, I thought of this idea. How do you guys feel about doing it this way? I think that's kind of the best way to go. And then there's a laissez-faire leader. Laissez-faire basically means hands off. It refers to government most of the time, but you can use it in any kind of situation or context. But like I said, it's hands off. He's the leader, but he kind of says, hey, you guys do what you want to do. Just report back to me. Make sure you guys get it done. And we'll figure it out. This can be good when everyone in your group is really hardworking, really determined and driven. But if you have a bunch of people who are kind of knuckleheads, don't really want to work, a laissez-faire approach doesn't really work that well, because if you give them that freedom, they're gonna give them an inch and they take a mile. That kind of sentiment. So then if you're not a leader, you're a member. And being a member of a group is really important. A lot of people tend to think like, oh, if I'm not leading, let me just get the job done, do the bare minimum. But you want to be a good member in a group for multiple reasons. One, when you're working in a group, your effort that you put forth is going to determine your marks or your grades, whatever it is. And so you want to do that to make sure you get a good grade. But at the same time, if you're working hard, it's going to rub off. It's contagious. People see what other members are doing, and they want to live up to that for the most part. So if you're a member and you're kind of just going through the motions, not really doing anything, one, your group's not going to like you, and two, other members might feed off that and be like, hey, Joe over here is being lazy, well, why should I work hard on mine? I'll do the bare minimum as well. So you really want to make sure you're getting your work done. And if you're not the leader and you thought you should be the leader, but you're a member, you can still take a leadership role, just kind of more of, I don't want to say laissez-faire, but a more backhand approach and say, I'm going to back off, but I'll still make sure these people have it done and kind of be the number two. And then when you're creating, let's say, a public speech with a group, the first thing to do is determine the format. Are we going to do a PowerPoint? Are we going to do a movie? Are we just going to get up there and give a speech? Because this is really important. If, let's say you never do this and one person's just kind of under the assumption they're doing a PowerPoint, he might make 3 slides and then everyone else comes in and is like, all right, I figured out my part of the speech. This guy's like, wait, I just created slides, now we need to do a PowerPoint. It can be really disorganized. You want to decide on a format that's best for what you're trying to do and all work from there. Then once you have the format, obviously the next step is just to create it. We've talked about creating a speech multiple times. You want to outline it, come up with an idea bank, do all those steps and create your speech. And then giving your speech, that's the fun part. You get to give it, you get to do the stuff you worked hard to prepare for. And then afterwards, what we're doing in our class actually, and it's important, is evaluate. So you're working in a group, you've given your speech, you're not done yet. It might feel like you're done, but you're actually not. You want to evaluate. And even if some people might say, I'm never going to work in this group again, why should I evaluate? It's important because the keys and the lessons you're going to learn from evaluating your speech are going to be applicable to not only yourself, but groups that you work in for in the future. So your group might have done something that you noticed is really bad. Maybe the organization when creating the speech was really bad, or maybe you guys didn't create a good format. You can use that when going forward and say, hey, I worked in a group before, this didn't work, we should not try to go forward with this idea. And then you can do the vice versa. If something worked out really well in your group, maybe an authoritarian leader who knew what he was doing really worked out well, and you're in this next group and you know that the leader in your group is a really good guy and he would be a good authoritarian leader, but everyone's like, hey, let's do a laissez-faire approach. You can step up and say, hey, I've done this before, we got an A, and I think we should go with authoritarian. Stuff like that. Working in small groups can be really hard, Everyone's been in that group where they had to do all the work, and I think everyone's probably been in a group where they did none of the work. But at the end of the day, if you follow the steps that they talk about in the book and really pick up on the lessons that they explain through the text, you'll have a successful small group.